This meeting is being recorded. This meeting is being transcribed.
Want to welcome everybody to our October meeting of the Board of Accountancy. My name is Andy Bonner, and I'm chairman of the Tennessee State Board of Accountancy. Today is Friday, October 20th, 2023, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. We're meeting here today in the Tennessee State Board of Accountancy in the Davy Crockett Tower, Conference Room 1A, and that's at 500 James Parkway in Nashville, Tennessee. The meeting date, time, and location has been properly noticed, and copies of the agenda were posted to the Board of Accountancy website on October 9th, 2023. Now I'll ask Karen to do a formal roll call for us, so to confirm that there's a quorum in the room.
Andy Bonner.
Here.
Larry Elmore. Greg Gilbert.
Here.
Janet Booker Davis. Pam Church.
Here.
David Crenshaw.
Here.
John Griesbeck.
Here.
Gay Moon.
Here.
Rob Vance.
Here.
Brad Floyd.
Here.
All right, thank you, Karen. Couple announcements here. Gay Moon, welcome back.
Thank you.
We haven't had a successor appointed, and we appreciate you coming in and allowing us to have a forum, and specifically on some committees, and welcome back. Good to see you. Want to welcome any visitors that we have, members of the public. We welcome you all to our board meeting. A period of public comment will be available at the end of the meeting regarding matters on the agenda. If you wish to make any comments, please sign up with a sheet that's up front on the table, and just go ahead and sign that sheet when you have time. If anyone wishes to comment regarding the rulemaking hearing, the time will be provided during the hearing for any of those comments. I want to ask anybody that's in the room and to go ahead and turn their cell phones on silence. And when you come and you speak, if you're sitting here at the table or if you come up to the podium, make sure your mic is on and that you're close to your mic and you can be heard. We've had some issues there in that area, and we want to make sure that if we go back and we actually record this and put it on the website, we want to make sure that anybody can listen to anything that's happening in this meeting. Thus, it's open to the public at any point. Larry today will be communicating via chat to Karen, and then Karen will actually tell us his responses for any votes or any questions that he may have. Want to welcome Larry. It's great to see you on the screen over there. I don't know if you can see us, but we're very happy to have you on the telly today, the virtual telly. So with that, I want to put up ask for a nomination for a review and adoption of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda that we have today? And if so, may I have a motion to accept that agenda?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Karen?
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore. Votes aye. Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
And let me go back and say, Pam, welcome. Hope everything's good in Memphis.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on
Thank
the
you very much.
virtual world today.
Happy to be here.
Well, I know you had a very important meeting yesterday that you had to be at, and we really appreciate you jumping on today and being a part of this meeting. Thank you.
I'm happy to do it. Thank you.
We all got an advance copy of the minutes, and so has everybody had a chance to look at those minutes, and are there any things that need to be corrected?
Mr. Chairman, I would offer a comment or two. If you look on the minutes under the board committee reports, and specifically the law and rules section, at our last meeting, we actually had a motion, and that motion was seconded, and then we had discussion. And then there was an amendment offered to the motion, and that amendment was seconded, but ultimately we had one vote. So, and it's unclear as to which of the two motions we voted on. I think we probably voted to approve the entirety of the two motions, but it was unclear, and I think we will rectify that later today. But anyway, as you will note in the minutes that we stated it was unclear as to the aspects of the vote.
All right, thank you. I would go on to say here that we have talked to our executive director, and Wendy's informed us that nobody actually came to her, and no approvals were made related to that vote since the last meeting.
That is correct.
And then I know that John covered that yesterday in the Laws and Rules Committee, and I believe that, would you like to add anything to it, John, as chairman?
Other than we'll make a combined recommendation to the board today to vote on.
All right, great, thank you for pointing that out. Any other changes to the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, on the first page, I believe there's a date error under public disclaimer and roll call. It says July 14, 2024. Should say 23.
All right, so we'll have that change there. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes with that change?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Karen, will you do us a roll call or call to vote there?
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore. Votes aye. Greg Gilbert,
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis, Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon. Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
Next, we've got our rulemaking hearing. I'll turn that over to Wendy for a few comments and then to Neil.
So yes, the rulemaking hearing is scheduled this morning. We have the court reporter who is just shown up, so let's give her some time to set up, and then we'll reconvene once she is ready. Is that okay?
Sounds great.
Okay.
So we'll go on directly to your report, Wendy, and get the executive director's report.
Well, are you okay with that if we go ahead and do my executive director's report while she sets up?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The executive director's report you all received in your read-ahead materials, and starting out on that report are a number of future meeting dates. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of conflicts in future meeting dates, so I have a few different proposals there. I shared these with you a few days ago in hopes that you all could check your calendars to see if these new proposed dates worked. We are looking to reschedule the next meeting in January from January 30th, Tuesday, January 30th, consider a change to Friday, February 2nd. We are also looking to change the July 2024 meeting from Tuesday, July 30th to Tuesday, July 16th. And then finally, the new proposed date for for the first meeting of 2025 would be Tuesday, February 4th. And there have been either scheduling conflicts or problems with this conference room or various things that have come up that precipitated this request. We could also discuss different dates if these are problems for anyone. And we can consider that at the end of my report and vote on those. NASBA meetings, their 116th annual meeting will be in New York City at the end of this month, October 29th through November 1st. And Andy Bonner, Chairman Bonner, Greg Gilbert, and Brad Floyd have been approved to attend along with myself. And so we are looking forward to that and getting some updates on what's going on with NASBA and the regulatory community. The executive directors and board staff legal counsel conference is still scheduled for the end of March 2024 here in Nashville. So typically I would attend that along with Duke and Neil. So it's focused on executive directors, staff, and investigation and legal. So we always look forward to that each year, and we get to be the host city this time. NASBA Southeast Regional Conference Call. So we typically do these a few times a year where this NASBA Southeast Regional Director will have a meeting with all of the board chairs and executive directors in the Southeast, and we talk about issues. It's a way for NASBA to also share with us what's going on. It's a chance for us to provide feedback. Chairman Bonner had a conflict in his schedule, so Larry agreed to join this meeting. So we attended on August 16th, along with, as I mentioned, representatives from each of the southeastern states. The Southeastern Regional Director is Willie Sims, currently from Mississippi. During the call, we heard updates from NASBA's Board of Directors meeting, which actually I believe was in July, and we heard those updates as a board from Andy at the prior meeting. Discussion items included an update on the adoption of the 30-month rule, which we'll be talking about in the rulemaking hearing today. Fourth quarter testing capacity. As we move to the new exam, there's concern about capacity for all of the candidates that want to test before the end of the year. The Experience, Learn, and Earn program, which I will talk about here in a few minutes, and ESOP ownership in a CPA firm. So that covers that particular conference call. The CPA exam, your 2023 second quarter statistics are attached to my report. There you will see that we just continue to struggle a little bit in the number of new candidates, but it's not dropping, so that's good news. So hopefully we'll see an increase in the third and fourth quarter. So the AICPA and NASBA launched the Experience, Learn, and Earn pilot program, which I mentioned that we discussed on our regional conference call. And we have discussed this at prior board meetings. Andy's mentioned it as well. But the concept is basically due to the decline in the accounting graduates and the number of candidates taking the CPA exam, the AICPA and NASBA have launched this initiative. And the program is designed to help resolve financial hurdles that college graduates may face by integrating relevant online study with work experience through a participating accounting firm. The Tulane School of Professional Advancement is going to pilot this program with initial classes starting in January 2024. So the idea is that a candidate would finish their bachelor's degree, go to work for a CPA firm, and while they're working for that CPA firm, they would take online asynchronous courses through, right now, the pilot school Tulane, and finish up any portion of the additional 30 hours that they need. And so, again, it's not guaranteed that the firm pays for this, but I think there's an expectation that they would help in covering the costs for the candidate there through some means. And if they're unable to do that, then the cost is being kept very low so that it is more reasonable for the candidate to hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that. Andy, would you like to add anything?
I think that there's probably more colleges that are probably going to get an opportunity to participate in that program. As we come on board, more colleges have kind of reached out to say, hey, we would like to be a part of it. I look forward to seeing some of the results to see how it goes. But I applaud NASBA and the AICPA for really working hard to come up with initiatives that will help get people back in the seats of the small public firms with a CPA certificate. I'd also like to point out that when you talk about the credit relief initiative, our own executive director was on that task force, and I appreciate all, Wendy, that you've done in your time and effort to help with that. I think in Tennessee, this board has commented several times about the fact that we need more licensed CPAs in the state, that as a board, we're concerned about that for public protection, the fact that we have people coming up as we have this large generation of people who retire. And so I just think that the voice has been heard here. It's been carried back to NASBA. And even our own executive director has carried the voice to talk to other executive directors across the United States about, hey, we need to do something. And so I'm excited about where we are, but I think we're probably going to hear in the next board meeting more information about other initiatives that are coming down or being proposed. So with more to come in that area.
Thank you, Andy, and Pam is also on that committee and has done
That's
some of
correct.
this,
Pardon me, Pam.
some of this work with me.
That's okay. It's been a long time coming, and I think the situation warrants this fairly significant move.
I'm also hopeful to learn, John, I think your firm may be considering participating in the ELE program. Yeah, so we have firsthand knowledge of maybe how that may work as well. So thank you, John, for that support.
I will say that I've talked to several students who are getting close to graduation. They're looking forward to possibly getting to a firm that is participating in that program. That they were very excited about that. And when you think about the cost of everything today, and the fact that you have to go to college to get that 30 extra hours, this really is a way to help people in inner cities and in the country to kind of help with that cost. And so hopefully it opens up the doors to where we have more people coming into the profession.
Great. The next item is the Contractors Board. We've worked over the past several years with disciplinary matters with individuals that are performing reviews or audits for contractors in an effort to be licensed with the Contractors Board, and those individuals are either unlicensed or they're not going through peer review. So we've tried to work over the years with the Contractors Board to make improvements there if we can. Since the last board meeting, Karen has gone in and reviewed very closely the instructions in the online application for the Contractors Board as well as their paper application. And it is very clear in there that it lays out the financial statement requirements. It indicates that the review or audit must be performed by a CPA with an active CPA license and firm permit who is actively enrolled in a board-approved peer review program at the time the report is issued. They provide links to the individual to verify that license. In addition to that, we created a resource on our website that they could link to help explain a test work and then show them where they can locate potential CPA firms that are enrolled in the peer review program that might be individuals that could help them with this requirement. So the caveat with this is that the Contractors Board is without an executive director again. So they've been going over some turnover there. So at this point, I feel like we've done some things to try to assist. There may be more, and we'll continue to look into that as they obtain a new executive director. Communications, in early October, we did send an email out to licensees that are renewing this year with reminders about their CPE requirements, a link to their renewal requirements to remind them. And we also included instructions on creating a new account in the upgraded core system. I saw that a few of you have gone in and done that, so I appreciate that. I think anybody that can do it early is going to avoid the potential wait times and trying to get help as we get closer to renewal season. So if you have a chance when you get back, go in and try to create your new account and let me know if you have any problems with that, and we can help you out. Renewals do go live November 2nd. I think we're a little less than 2 weeks out. We will send postcard reminders again this year for the third consecutive year for that.
I'd like just to say that it's a really easy process, and don't challenge yourself and wait when everybody else logs on at one time and the system crashes or something ridiculous like that. Hopefully it won't, but you got to think that it's definitely going to slow it down. So right now it's an easy process. I encourage everybody to go out and do that as soon as they can.
All right, I already did communication, sorry. Outreach, the following outreach events have occurred since the July meeting. In August, in late August, Andy and I met with Kara, the CEO at the TSCPA, Jonathan Bailey, their current president, and their incoming vice chair, Kelly Crow. And so this is an effort for us just to talk through the issues that are going on in the profession, understand what they're doing. We can share with them what we're doing at the board. And so just a chance, again, a couple of times a year for us to touch base with each other. And I think it ended up being a good follow-up to the one we did in the spring on some of the issues.
I would say that we're very blessed in Tennessee to have a strong Tennessee society. Kira being present and allowing us to kind of have a one-on-one meeting and talk out anything that they may can be concerned about, or just to offer what's going on in the profession. Since we have so many people on this board that are very active in NASBA and have a view and bring to this board a view of things that are changing or that we're talking about in the profession. And so it allows us to have great communication with them. Some of the states do not have good communication between the board and their state societies. And so I just think we're blessed to have that here in Tennessee. And so I appreciate Wendy getting that together with Kara. Hopefully we can continue that on at least twice a year or maybe even quarterly, because it really does help highlight some issues that they may be concerned about or that we may be concerned about and to the forefront. And I do believe that as Kara and Wendy go around to the state and talk to individual chapters, that it also allows better communication with the licensed CPAs throughout the state. And I appreciate you, Wendy, for all that you do there, because it does make a difference. I got to join you for the one in Kingsport, Tennessee, for the Appalachian chapter, and it was very informative. And there was no question that from our meetings that Jonathan could talk in very much confidence about that we were on the same track as a board and as a Tennessee society about what was best for Tennessee. So I appreciate all that.
Okay, the next section is the CPE audit. We have concluded the audit for the year, and so this gives you a rundown of the statistics from that audit. So 572 licensees were selected for the 2021-22 renewal period. We had 489 of those individuals were compliant. We had 35 individuals compliant with carryover hours. We had 26 compliant with penalty hours submitted. We had 15 individuals that claimed a home state exemption. This means that they live and work in another state, and so they're able to fall under CPE reciprocity and claim their home state there. And then 2 individuals were removed. Sometimes you have people that pass away, or for various reasons they're not subject to the audit any longer. So 2 people were removed. So we have 5 remaining individuals that have been assigned due dates to complete penalty CPE because they missed one of the marks or 2 or more marks. So we will wait on those. And I believe those are all due before the end of the year. So we will know if any one of those individuals does not comply, then a complaint would be opened and we would look into it further. So in all, we had 567 individuals that were compliant, either initially or upon submitting penalty hours. We have 5 that we are still waiting on penalty hours. We processed 572. Our response rate was 100%, so we did not have to open any complaints for non-response, which is wonderful. And the compliance rate with no penalty hours needed is 95%, and the compliance rate with penalty hours is 93%. So as for those of you that have been on the board for a while, this is probably a 10% improvement over what we had at one time before we were collecting our listing at renewal. So good work there to everybody. The next page shows performance metrics related to the average number of days that we license individuals. Our case and complaint performance, this is our goal is to have cases considered by the board within 180 days of receipt. That number is lower than we want it to be, but as I mentioned at the last meeting, this is a carryover really of the 3 months that we didn't have an investigator. And so I have reviewed every single one in detail. So this is just going to get better. It's just that we have some from December and January last year that are still kind of working their way through the system and are still on our data. Online adoption rate, this is the number of individuals that apply for a license online versus paper. New licenses issued in the third quarter of 2023, we issued 122 individual licenses, 11 firm permits. We have so far this year issued 362 individual licenses and 45 firm permits. We are running a bit behind on that, but hopefully we have a strong fourth quarter there. New candidates to the CPA exam for the current year is 257 through the second quarter. This is 3 more than we had last year at the same time. We are running behind prior years, but I do expect a strong fourth quarter with people rushing in to take BEC specifically before the launch of the new CPA exam. And then the final page there is the overall licensing population and the various statuses of our licenses. We're at 12,047 active licensees, and we're at 1,777 active firm permits. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take those, and then we'll need to go back and look at the meeting dates.
Wendy, I don't have a question, but this is a comment about the contractors board outreach. I think those methods that you all have just enacted, they are excellent and hopefully will really improve what we've been seeing in terms of cases that come up. They sound like great additions to the things that we've been doing. So good work on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Wendy? Seeing none, this is an action item, and so right now we've got the future dates as an item. Does anybody see any conflicts at this point with any of those dates? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to accept the revised dates and also the proposed date for 2025? All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Karen, if you'll do a roll call.
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore, Larry votes aye. Greg Gilbert,
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis,
Aye.
Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw,
Aye.
John Griesbeck,
Aye.
Gay Moon,
Aye.
Rob Vance,
Aye.
Brad Floyd,
Aye.
All right, thank you. We're now going to go to back to our rulemaking hearing, and I'll turn the mic over to Neil. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This rulemaking hearing is called to order. My name is Neil Stauffer. I serve as an Associate General Counsel in the Department of Commerce and Insurance, Division of Regulatory Boards, and I represent the Tennessee Board of Accountancy. Would the agency representatives who are present introduce themselves for the record? And this would be the Executive Director and the board members.
Wendy Garvin, Executive Director of the Board.
David Crenshaw, board member.
Janet Booker Davis, board member.
Brad Floyd, board member.
Andy Bonner, Chairman, Board Member.
Greg Gilbert, board member.
John Griesbeck, board member.
Gay Moon, board member.
Rob Vance, board member.
Pam, are you present?
Yes, Pam Church, board member.
And Larry Elmore is present via Teams. Board member.
Today is Friday, October 20th, 2023. This rulemaking hearing is taking place pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 4-5-204 in Conference Room 1A of Davy Crockett Tower, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee, and all available by electronic means via Microsoft Teams, which can be located on the board's website, www.tn.gov/commerce/regbboards/accountancy/public-meeting-information.html. On this page, the link for access to this rulemaking hearing via Microsoft Teams can be found in the chart located in the middle of the web page in the row with the date 10/20/2023 in the location column labeled Connect. The purpose of this rulemaking hearing is to solicit comments on rule amendments to the rules and regulations of the Tennessee Board of Accountancy. The rule amendments update requirements and guidelines for the computer-based Uniform Certified Public Accountant examination and educational requirements for licensure. The rule amendments include lengthening the time frame during which test section credit will remain valid and lengthening the time a candidate will be provided to pass all required test sections. Additionally, exam scores will no longer expire after 10 years. However, continuing professional education will be required when scores are more than 10 years old. Also, the amendments include revised requirements regarding the number of allowable internship credit hours. A rule is defined as an agency statement of general applicability that implements or prescribes law or policy or describes the procedures or practice requirements of the agency. Proposed rules are filed with the Office of the Secretary of State, notice is given to the public for comment, and a rulemaking hearing is held. Upon conclusion of the hearing and adoption of the proposed rules, the rules are forwarded to the Attorney General's office for review of legality. If approved, they are filed with the Secretary of State, which is responsible for publication, and the Government Operations Committee of the General Assembly. The rules must stay in the Secretary of State's office for 90 days, the end of which time will be the effective date. Those members of the public wishing to speak and appearing in person should place their name on the sign-in sheet located on the table behind me. Those members of the public wishing to speak appearing via Microsoft Teams should put their name in the chat box. Oral comments will only be accepted by those who have written their name on the sign-in sheet or typed their name in the chat box. Is there anyone who desires to offer oral comments but who has not yet written their name on the sign-in sheet or typed their name in the chat box?
Neil, I have no one so far in the chat box.
Seeing that there are none, for those attending this hearing in person, I would call your attention to the table located directly behind me. On this table, you will find red line copies of the rule amendments addressed in today's rulemaking hearing. For those attending on Microsoft Teams, you will find a link in the chat box to the red line copies of the rule amendments for today's rulemaking hearing. The notice of rulemaking hearing included the entire text of the proposed rules and was published on the Tennessee Administrative Register website on August 7th, 2023. Ms. Garvin, what additional notice was given to the affected individuals or groups?
An e-notify was sent to licensees on August 10th, 2023. The Society of CPAs is also aware of the...
As the agency hears public comment on the proposed rules, I, as moderator, reserve the right to limit such comments if they become repetitive. Please limit your comments accordingly. I will summarize the substance of the proposed rules into the record. Rule 0020-01-.066 examinations is amended by deleting the text of subparagraphs A through D in its entirety and substituting instead language so that, as amended, the rule shall read: the following shall apply to the computer-based uniform CPA examination. A candidate may take the required test sections individually and in any order. Credit for passing any test section shall be valid for that test section for 30 months from the date the passing score for such test section is released by NASPA to the candidate or the board, as the case may be, regardless of the number of test sections taken or having to attain a minimum score on any failed sections. A candidate shall pass all required test sections within a rolling 30-month period. The rolling 30-month period begins on the date the first passing scores are released by NASPA to the candidate or the board, as the case may be. The rolling 30-month period concludes on the date the candidate sits for the final test section passed, regardless of when the score is released by NASPA for the final test section. A candidate who earns initial credit on one or more test sections of the CPA examination must sit for and complete the remaining required test sections of the examination on or before the expiration date as shown on the Uniform CPA examination score notice. If all required test sections are not passed within the initial 30-month period, credit for the first test sections passed shall expire and a new rolling 30-month period shall begin on the date the second passing scores were released by NASPA to the candidate or the board, as the case may be, and continue for 30 months from that date. If all required test sections are not passed within the next rolling 30-month period, credit for the second test sections passed shall expire and a new rolling 30-month period will begin on the date the next test section passing score, if any, was released by NASPA to the candidate or the board, as the case may be. The cycle of 30 months, rolling periods, and test section credit expirations will continue until all test sections are passed within one 30-month rolling period. Notwithstanding the foregoing, if a candidate stops testing for a 30-month period, then all credit for previously passed test sections will expire. Subparagraph 6B, a candidate shall not retake a failed test section until the candidate has been notified of the score for the most recent attempt of that failed test section. Subparagraph 6C, a candidate shall be deemed to have passed the examination if the candidate obtains credit for passing all required test sections in one rolling 30-month period. Subparagraph 6D, a candidate shall retain credit for any and all required test sections of the examination passed as a candidate of another state if such credit would have been given under then applicable requirements in the state. Subparagraph 6E, notwithstanding subsections A, B, and C of this rule, the period of time in which to pass all required test sections of the examination may be extended by the board upon a showing that the credit was lost by reason of individual hardship, including but not limited to health, military service, disruption at a local, regional, or national level impacting the candidate or other circumstances beyond the candidate's control. Rule 0020-01-.0611, examinations, is amended by deleting the paragraph entirely and substituting instead language so that, as amended, the paragraph shall read: a candidate who applies for a license more than 10 years after the date upon which the candidate passed the last section of the Uniform CPA examination must also document 80 hours of continuing professional education in technical fields of study earned within the 24 months immediately preceding the date of application. Of the 80 hours required, at least 2 hours shall consist of a board-approved state-specific ethics course. Qualifying continuing professional education is found in Rule 0020-05-.04. Rule 0020-02-021C, education, is amended by deleting the subparagraph entirely and substituting instead language so that, as amended, the paragraph shall read: not more than 9 semester or equivalent quarter hours may be internship programs. Of these 9 semester hours or equivalent quarter hours, a maximum of 6 semester hours or equivalent quarter hours may be applied to the 30 semester or 45 quarter hours in accounting. And Garvin, were any written comments received by the board office?
No.
I also have not received any comments prior to this hearing. Are there any public comments from those present at today's meeting, either in person or via Microsoft Teams?
I have somebody type in a minute. It appears they've stopped, and I have not received a comment or a question.
No one is still typing.
No.
sign-in sheet here and no comments in the chat box. Via Microsoft Teams, the comment period has concluded. Lastly, there are several measures I will need to adopt by motion and roll call vote as required by TCA 4-5-222. First, I will need a motion to adopt the hearing rules language that has been presented to you.
A motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Karen, if you'll do a roll call vote.
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore,
Larry Elmore votes aye.
Greg Gilbert,
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis,
Aye.
Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw,
Aye.
John Griesbeck,
Aye.
Gay Moon,
Aye.
Rob Vance,
Aye.
Brad Floyd,
Aye.
Next, I will read the Regulatory Flexibility Addendum. Pursuant to TCA 4-5-401 through 4-5-404, prior to the initiation of the rulemaking process, all agencies shall conduct a review of whether a proposed rule or rule affects small business. The type or types of small business and an identification and estimate of the number of small businesses subject to the rule being proposed that would bear the cost of or directly benefit from the rule being proposed. The board does not foresee small businesses bearing significant costs to comply with the rule amendments or directly benefiting from the rule amendments, as the proposed rule amendments do not address matters directly impacting small businesses. The proposed rule amendments address the allowable time frame within which candidates for licensure must complete the computer-based uniform CPA examination, internship program credits, and other educational requirements for licensure for certain applicants. The projected reporting, record-keeping, and other administrative costs required for compliance with the rule being proposed, including the type of professional skills necessary for preparation of the report or record. There is a possibility of some additional costs for the administration and enforcement of these rule amendments, considering that examination scores will not expire under the amended rules, which will necessitate storing those records indefinitely. A statement of the probable effect on impacted small businesses and consumers. The board does not foresee a significant impact on small businesses or consumers with these rule amendments. A description of any less burdensome, less intrusive, or less costly alternative methods of achieving the purpose and objectives of the rule being proposed that may exist, and to what extent the alternative means might be less burdensome to small business. The department knows of no other less restrictive or burdensome means than through the promulgation of these rules as amended. A comparison of the rule being proposed with any federal or state counterparts. Rules and regulations for the state boards of accountancy vary in some respects across the country. However, it is very likely the rule amendments are similar to current or proposed rules and regulations in other state-level jurisdictions due to a concerted effort to adopt model rule language across jurisdictions, which helps facilitate license mobility. The board is unaware of any similar existing or proposed federal rules. Analysis of the effect of the possible exemption of small businesses from all or any part of the requirements contained in the rule being proposed. The board does not foresee the need for a possible exemption of the requirements in the proposed rule amendments for small businesses. The proposed amendments are not aimed at small businesses, and any impact of these amendments on small businesses is likely negligible. I will now need a motion to adopt the Regulatory Flexibility Addendum that has just been read.
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Karen, if you'll do a roll call.
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore,
Larry votes aye.
Greg Gilbert,
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis,
Aye.
Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw,
Aye.
John Griesbeck,
Aye.
Gay Moon,
Aye.
Rob Vance,
Aye.
I will now read the impact on local government statement pursuant to TCA 4-5-228. The Tennessee Board of Accountancy foresees no impact on any local governments. I will now need a motion to adopt the impact on local government statement.
Have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Karen?
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore,
Larry votes aye.
Greg Gilbert, Janet Booker Davis,
Aye.
Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw,
Aye.
John Griesbeck,
Aye.
Gay Moon,
Aye.
Rob Vance,
Aye.
Before you is a copy of the additional information required by the Joint Government Operations Committee, and this is on the 7039 forms that have been provided to you. All agencies upon filing a rule must also submit the following pursuant to TCA 4-5-226I1. Please review this document and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. If none, I will need a motion to adopt this responsive information followed by a roll call vote, and we'll do that at the end after I read it. And I will now read the answers to the questions required by the Joint Government Operations Committee. As I said, all agencies upon filing a rule must also submit this pursuant to TCA 4-5-I1. Brief summary of the rule and a description of all relevant changes in previous regulations effectuated by such rule. The proposed rule amendments update requirements and guidelines for the computer-based Uniform Certified Public Accountant examination and educational requirements for licensure. The rule amendments include lengthening the time frame during which test section credit will remain valid and lengthening the time a candidate will be provided to pass all required test sections. Additionally, exam scores will no longer expire after 10 years. However, continuing professional education will be required when scores are more than 10 years old. Additional revised requirements have been provided regarding the number of allowable internship credit hours. A citation to and brief description of any federal law or regulation or any state law or regulation mandating promulgation of such rule or establishing guidelines relevant thereto. These rule amendments are not required to achieve compliance with any state or federal law. Identification of persons, organizations, corporations, or governmental entities most directly affected by this rule, and whether those persons, organizations, corporations, or governmental entities urge adoption or rejection of this rule. The rule amendments impact current and future applicants for a certified public accountant CPA license. The board expects applicants, CPA employers, future licensees, instructors, professors, and course providers to be proponents of the rule amendments, as the amendments expand the time frame for candidates to pass all required test sections of the Uniform CPA examination and set expanded expiration dates for the validity of scores. Additionally, the amendments provide for greater access for applicants applying for licensure more than 10 years after they pass the last section of the Uniform CPA examination, which benefits the CPA profession and the public. Finally, the amendments increase the number of allowable internship program credit hours, providing students greater flexibility in meeting the educational requirements for licensure. The board does not foresee a particular segment of opponents to these rule amendments. Identification of any opinions of the Attorney General and reporter or any judicial ruling that directly relates to the rule or the necessity to promulgate the rule. There are no known opinions of the Attorney General and reporter or any judicial rulings that directly relate to this rule. An estimate of the probable increase or decrease in state and local government revenues and expenditures, if any, resulting from the promulgation of this rule, and assumptions and reasoning upon which the estimate is based. An agency shall not state that the fiscal impact is minimal if the fiscal impact is more than 2% of the agency's annual, or $500,000, whichever is less. It is not anticipated that these rule amendments will directly increase or decrease revenue, although the amended rules could lead to an increased number of licensees, which could result in increased licensure revenue. Identification of the appropriate agency representative or representatives possessing substantial knowledge and understanding of the rule. Neil Stauffer, Associate General Counsel for the Tennessee Board of Accountancy, and Wendy Garvin, Executive Director for the Tennessee Board of Accountancy. Identification of the appropriate agency representative or representatives who will explain the rule at a scheduled meeting of the committees. Neil Stauffer, Associate General Counsel for the Tennessee Board of Accountancy, Wendy Garvin, Executive Director for the Tennessee Board of Accountancy. Office address, telephone number, and email address of the agency representative or representatives who will explain the rule at a scheduled meeting. Neil Stauffer, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee, 37243. 615-741-1910, neil.stauffer@tn.gov. Wendy Garvin, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee, 37243, 615-532-7397, wendy.garvin@tn.gov. Any additional information relevant to the rule proposed for continuation that the committee requests? There is no known additional relevant information. I will now need a motion to adopt the additional information for the Joint Government Operations Committee.
Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, I'll let Karen do the roll call.
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore. Larry votes aye. Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
That concludes the rulemaking hearing. Following this hearing, the rules will be put on a rulemaking filing form SS 7039, submitted to the Governor's Office for final review, and then submitted to the Attorney General's Office for review and approval. Once Attorney General's signature is obtained, these are filed with the Secretary of State and generally become effective 90 days from the date of filing after receiving a positive recommendation from the Joint Government Operations Committee. Thank you for being here today.
Neil, thank you very much. Appreciate all that you've done on this. You did an outstanding job. I know that's a lot. And appreciate Wendy for all her efforts in doing this. I think it's wonderful for our profession. I'm very excited with the fact that we have gotten to this point on this rule and look forward to seeing it being finalized. I think it's great for the people of Tennessee. And we want to appreciate our court reporter coming today and thank you for being here and taking all those notes for us. Any other comments? All right, we'll move forward. Thank you. Next, we've got on the agenda is for our committee assignments. We actually met and Wendy and myself and assigned committees, and we need just approval of these committees. The executive committee would be myself as chairman, Larry Elmore as vice chair, Greg Gilbert as secretary, and Kevin Monroe as immediate past chair. Licensing committee would be Janet Booker Davis as chair, Pam Church, Brad Floyd, John Griesbeck, and Rob Vance as members. Our laws and rules committee would be John Griesbeck as chair, Janet Booker Davis, Pam Church, David Crenshaw, and Gay Moon. And then our enforcement committee would be Kevin Monroe as chair, David Crenshaw, Larry Elmore, Greg Gilbert, and Rob Vance. And so at this point, I'll ask if there's any discussion. If not, maybe a motion for these committees.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
And I'll ask Karen to do a roll call vote.
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore. Larry votes aye. Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon. Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
All right. Appreciate that. These committees actually met yesterday. So this was a vote to ratify that and also a vote to form those committees for the 23-24 year. I would note that Kevin Monroe is out, as we said earlier. And so we have somebody stepping in as chair for this meeting, Mr. Greg Gilbert, who will be chair of that committee of enforcement, and will present that report today. Next on our agenda, we have the reinstatement application by Mr. Scott Dahlberg. I know that he has his attorney and associate attorney with him, and I'll turn this over at this point to Wendy so that she can state the process, and then we'll go to Neil with his comments. Wendy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you all may recall, at the last meeting, we considered the application for Mr. Dahlberg to reinstate his revoked CPA license. And you all approved him to consider that application at this meeting, and he is present as requested to answer questions. I will go ahead and turn it over to Neil for some more detail.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members, I provided you a memo for your reading that is provided in your materials, and I'll just go over that briefly. Scott P. Dahlberg is seeking reinstatement of his individual CPA license. Mr. Dahlberg has completed the initial requirements of submitting his application for reinstatement and paying the required $250 application fee. I won't belabor the factual history that's there in your materials. The board has discretion here in deciding whether to approve the application in accordance with Board Rule 0020-01-.104, under which the board may consider all activities of the applicant since the suspension or revocation was imposed, the offense for which the applicant was disciplined, the applicant's activities during the time the license was in good standing, the applicant's rehabilitative efforts, the applicant's restitution to damaged parties in the matter for which the discipline was imposed, and the applicant's general reputation for truth and professional probity. The board may also question the applicant, complainant, or individual injured by the applicant. The board may impose appropriate terms and conditions for reinstatement of a license. And that's Board Rule 0020-01-.106. After consideration, the board may, in its sound discretion, choose to approve or not approve an application for reinstatement. Based upon the information provided in the applicable rules, it is my opinion that the board has discretion to review Mr. Dahlberg's application for reinstatement based on the elements of Board Rule 0020-01-.104 as outlined, and the board has discretion to reinstate with or without terms, conditions, or modifications, or the board may decide not to grant reinstatement.
All right. Thank you, Neil. Wendy?
Mr. Chairman, I have one additional thing to add. So at the last meeting, when the application was being considered, in Mr. Dahlberg's petition, he indicated taking some continuing education throughout the past several years. The board did request that Mr. Dahlberg submit proof of that CPE, which he did, and that is in your documents, a summary of the CPE. In general, I will report that the information he submitted reflects the statements he made in his petition, so we found those to be accurate statements.
All right. Thank you for that update. At this point, I'll turn it over to his attorney. Remember that as anybody gets up to speak, that there's a speak button you have to push, and make sure you speak directly into the microphone.
Got it. Chairman Bonner, thank you, and members of the board and Executive Director Gavin. I've got with me today Scott Dahlberg and then my associate Morgan Burkett, who's also a CPA and helped me get through some of the rules here. And we are here today on the petition for the CPA license reinstatement for Mr. Dahlberg. I know you want to hear from him more than me, and I believe where everything is set forth in the petition. Let me give a little bit of quick background on this. I first met Scott back in 2016 and met him through his uncle, Bill Dahlberg, who ran the Southern Company. And with me and my associates and a couple of law partners, we have been part of the support team for Scott. As you all have seen, there have been some challenges he has had and has overcome those challenges and have watched him grow throughout this entire process. And I understand that the board has the position and the responsibility to protect the public and also wants assurances that this will not happen again. And so with that, let me start off with something I should have covered minutes ago. On the hours, we do have a supplement. There are 2 additional hours to the 47. Well, I've got those. I've got 11 copies if I can hand these to you. And I think that it's appropriate for you all to hear from Scott, and if there are any questions you all have, rather than his attorney, because I can get up here and talk about the growth and give you all the assurances and tell you I believe that he has learned a very valuable lesson, and he is a man of integrity, and he's got a good support system. But with that, I'm going to let him stand up here and let you all and let him address this board, any questions you all may have of him. Scott?
I don't know if y'all are going to ask questions or I just talk, but like you said, one thing I've thought about it. Why is this important to me? And my great uncle was one of the first CPAs at a single number digit in Tennessee. And then there's been 2 generations of no CPAs in our family, and then I picked it up. And then I have 4 children, and I'd love for them to pick up that legacy one day. When everything first happened, I told my wife, I was like, yeah, the CPA thing's probably a pipe dream because we are held to a higher standard than the law. And so, but I was unfortunate to not have it. I worked very hard to pass it. Passed all 4 parts in the first try, and was very proud of that. And was very proud of my time with CPA firms and serving public. So I know you probably have questions.
You have any questions, comments? I do want to thank you for providing us with all your information on the continuing education. It's good to hear that I feel that you really seem to understand the importance of the certificate and the higher standard that we hold people to here in the state of Tennessee. It's an unfortunate thing that you've gone through. However, it's good to see that you've worked yourself back to the point where you're present here today, having served your 3 years and also doing everything you can to get back into the education requirements and to get your license back. And so thank you for coming today and being a part of that.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question. Mr. Dahlberg, can you explain why you didn't get the hours that were required during the time periods that were promulgated? What happened?
I think it was partially, so I have 4 children, was working a lot of hours, and they were young children at the time. And so I think it was just, at that time, one, I didn't really see this path to this point. And 2, I had to feed the 4 kids, and it was just your hours, how you spend your hours. And so due to the things that happened, I had to work more than I normally would have. And so my time between trying to keep their world as normal as possible and letting them be in sports and school activities and whatever, and not letting my activities make their lives different. It just not enough time.
Understandable. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have one. Mr. Dahlberg, both you and I think your attorney have mentioned your support system or support group. Tell us about that.
Of course, my uncle. He's been with us from the very beginning, and continues to be there whenever I need more him to be. But more than that, we've educated ourselves, my wife and I both, on handling our money better, being able to handle surprise situations. We're not going to have the surprise twins anymore. We're both fixed it that way, so we're not those kind of surprises aren't going to come. But we have taken classes through our churches, and my wife went through the Dave Ramsey course and financial peace, so we are much better prepared to handle a blown out tire or a broken windshield or somebody needs braces or whatever can come along. to think those things aren't going to come up in life are poor planning. So we are in a much better position to absorb those blows than we were at that time.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, with that, our Neil has told us that we have the ability to reinstate under Rule 0020-01.104. Do I have any motions at this point?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, and I guess Wendy maybe could best answer it. Is it possible to reinstate with some sort of monitoring for a couple of years? Have we done that in the past?
Neil can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do believe that you may reinstate your probation status, which would give him the opportunity to practice without any restrictions, but he would be listed on probation, and should something else occur within that time period, you all would be made aware of that, and that may be considered as part of whatever may transpire.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we allow Mr. Dahlberg to practice grant him the probation status licensure. And for a period of 2 years. Is that?
I would like to request that you consider whether continuing education should be provided for reinstatement along with your motion.
And I would add to the motion that we require Mr. Dahlberg to complete the requisite CPE hours for reinstatement. Is that adequate?
So the typical requirement for reinstatement is 80 technical hours within 6 months. And so in that motion, you are suggesting that he be able to reinstate provided that he submit 80 hours of technical continuing education within the next 6 months, and then he would be on probation for a period of 2 years.
No.
Oh, would that be subject to audit, CPE audit for those 2 years?
In a reinstatement situation, we do require certificates to be submitted, so we would verify that, yes, through certificates.
All right, we want to restate the motion real quick. Make sure we're all clear.
Karen, would you have that at this point?
The motion I have is to allow Mr. Dahlberg to practice under probation status for a period of 2 years, provided he submit 80 hours of technical CPE earned within a 6-month period.
All right, motion on the floor. Any comments? Mike, please.
Yes, sir. All right, Chairman Bonner, can you hear me now? Am I clear? Okay, I've
can hear you now.
I've got a question. I want to be sure I understand the 80 hours. There are, I believe, 49 hours now. Is this an additional 80 hours that would commence from today for 6 months, or does any of the hours that he have for this year serve as a credit to those 80 hours?
I would suggest that any hours that he has taken would qualify as long as they were within a 6-month period.
Okay, that explains it. Oh, thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
I do believe we still need a second.
All right, so I have a motion on the floor. I had a question. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
All right. Any other further questions?
I would just like to clarify with the board. Typically, on a reinstatement, the CP hours would not for reinstatement do not qualify for renewal CPE at a future renewal date. I think you have the discretion at this point to allow them to qualify for renewal or not. So if we could just make sure that we are clear on that so staff knows how to process.
The question has been raised as to whether the board seems fit to allow his 80 hours and any hours that qualify here in the 49 that he's had in the last, obviously, 6 months because it's September, to qualify for his renewal period. Any thoughts on that?
If you, that 80 hours plus another 40 for the current year, that's pretty harsh, especially if you have young children and you're getting restarted your career. Just my.
All right. Does everybody else feel the same way?
I agree with that. The 80 hours within the past 6 months would be sufficient, and then verifying through CPE audit for the next 2 years that he's in compliance. That seems reasonable to me.
Righty. So we have a motion. We have a second. So Wendy, do you think we need to amend that motion to add that to it? Or
that would probably be advisable, yeah,
okay,
to amend it to add that. Or he could restate the motion.
All right.
We could just start over. He could start with the motion and include that.
So do we have to have a vote to not approve the motion he has and then start over?
I think that's probably right.
Okay, so then I'll ask for a roll call to for us to turn down the motion that has been stated, and then we'll start over. So if you'll take us down that road, Karen.
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Pardon me, no.
Excuse me, wouldn't that be a positive vote to turn it down?
To turn it down.
Okay, I think you were correct the first time around.
Okay, still got the motion on the floor.
No, because the motion's on the floor, and I'm voting against the motion, so I got to say nay.
Right.
Okay, well, that's different than what you stated coming into that. I'm sorry. You said vote to turn it down.
Well, the vote to turn it down will be a nay vote.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we'll make sure we're voting it correctly.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so Larry is asking me to repeat motions, or that's what he is voting on.
He's voting to not vote.
Yeah. Basically, what we're asking for is a vote to not approve the motion that's on the floor, Larry. And the reason for that is that we're going to come back and add, repeat the motion and add the fact that we're going to allow his 80 hours of continuing education to qualify for his renewal period also.
Okay. Larry votes aye, but I think what he's saying is nay. I think Larry, so we're trying to
we're trying to have a nay vote on this motion that was also seconded because of the fact that we think that we are not going to approve this one, and that's what this vote is for a nay vote, so that we can come back and do a new motion in a second that is the correct one that we've now decided through questions that we want to have.
Okay, he is voting to deny the motion.
All right.
Greg Gilbert.
Nay.
Janet Booker Davis.
Nay.
Pam Church.
Nay.
David Crenshaw.
Nay.
John Griesbeck.
Nay.
Gay Moon.
Nay.
Rob Vance.
Nay.
Brad Floyd.
Nay.
Mr. Gilbert, will you lead us down the path so we can get this thing approved?
Aaron, do you have the motion?
Can you repeat that motion?
The motion was to allow Mr. Dahlberg to practice under probation status for a period of 2 years, provided he submit 80 hours of technical CPE earned within a 6-month period.
And that the
CPE submitted for reinstatement could be applied toward license renewal.
I'll make that motion.
Now, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
I do want to make sure I understand the timeline of these hours. I'm a little confused over 2023 hours that we're talking about and going forward. The 80. We had so much discussion about it. I'm not exactly sure what this 80 means.
And I'll just say, based on what Wendy was saying and what we talked about, that he has 49 hours in September that would qualify within that 6-month period. And so given that, then he would have 31 more hours that he would have to obtain between now and a 6-month period. So we would have to go back to September the 3rd and add 6 months to that. And as long as it's within that 6-month period. Now he does have September and October, so he could go after 4 months, he could lose the 49 hours and then obtain 80 hours within those last 2 months and still be qualifying under this motion. But it would definitely be in his best interest to go ahead and get the 31 done as fast as possible to not push that envelope. Am I correct?
I think so, but Karen would like to comment.
Okay.
What this motion means is that when we are reviewing the CPE submitted for renewal at the end of 2024, which will be when we're reviewing the CPE submitted for renewal at the end of 2024, we can consider the CPE that was also used for this license reactivation.
So everything Andy said is correct, and Karen simply added what would happen during renewal. He's a even numbered license, so he will renew next year.
Any other questions?
But he would also have to make sure he's got 20 hours in 2024. So,
correct.
So just keep that in mind when you're doing your 31 hours.
All right. See no other questions. Karen?
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Larry votes to agree.
Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
Mr. Dahlberg, welcome back to the profession as a licensed person in the state of Tennessee. I know that you have learned great lessons during this, and I hope that you carry that forward with you and apply it. We look forward to having other family members become licensed CPAs in the state of Tennessee. It's a great profession, and it's encouraging to see that you're encouraging your children to consider that. And we are hoping that you abide by all the motions here today and learn from it and go forward. We hope we don't have to ever see you again.
Don't either.
Yeah.
So, and I want to thank your council for coming and think that they did a wonderful job in presenting it today. It is 9:50. Why don't we take like a short 15-minute break before we get into the committees? Although I have been told by one of the board members that we're going to have a record-breaking time today. And so I'm encouraged to see if he's going to abide by that. But let's just take a short 15-minute break and then come back. All right. Thank you.
This meeting is being transcribed. This meeting is being recorded.
I want to welcome everybody back and thank you for such a short break. We're going to start back with our board committee reports now. We'll start with laws and rules and Chairman John Griesbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had two items on our agenda yesterday, one related to a proposed discipline matrix for the board to use in establishing penalties for violations, and also a sort of redoing the recommendation related to granting our executive director authority to provide or grant 12-month extensions related to the exam. So in conjunction with the adoption of the 30-month rule, NASBA suggested the state boards grant executive directors authority to extend credit up to 12 months from the current expiration date until the 30-month rule is effective, which we just had a rulemaking hearing on. So as was mentioned earlier, the Law and Rules Committee at its July meeting made a recommendation to grant such authority to our executive director. Because it was unclear as to proper approval of the committee's recommendation as amended by the board at its July meeting, we're making the following recommendation at this time. The committee recommends that the board grant authority to the executive director to approve requests for examination credit extensions of up to 12 months during the transition period before the effective date of the revised rule, and that extensions be evaluated based on the criteria for extensions presently used by the board. So that is our recommendation.
All right. So we have a recommendation. The recommendation does not require a motion since it comes from the committee, but we do need a second.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. So at this point, I'll ask, are there any questions? Seeing none, Karen, if you'll do some roll call. Vote.
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Larry votes aye.
Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis. Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The second item, as I mentioned, related to the discipline matrix for violations. At a previous meeting, we had asked the executive director to review the current matrix for any changes deemed necessary. In the board's pre-meeting materials that went out preliminary, they were given the opportunity to review those, and after some discussion yesterday as we reviewed those, we're prepared to make a recommendation to the board as follows. The committee recommends that the board approve the revised discipline matrix as presented, except for violations under TCA section 62-1-111A8 and board rule 0020-01-.14G, which should reflect supervision or revocation for violations with mitigating factors.
Suspension or revocation.
What did I say?
Supervision.
I'm sorry. Suspension or revocation. Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion that does not require a vote. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have the motion and second. Do we have any discussion or questions? Seeing none. Karen?
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
He votes aye.
Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Pam, we weren't able to hear you if you're on mute.
For some reason, I didn't hear you call me, so I was waiting. Aye, yes.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
All right. Mr. Chairman? All right. Thank you. Next, we go to licensing with Janet Booker Davis. Chairman Davis?
Okay. Our committee met yesterday, and we have 3 items on our agenda. Consideration for approving CPE and a credit relief program. The first item was to consider FINRA Series 24 exam for CPE. This particular FINRA exam relates to the performance of supervisory management of a broker dealer, and the supervision includes personnel management areas, broker dealer activities, retail and institutional customer activities, trading and marketing activities, and investment banking and research activities. The exam is a 3-hour, 45-minute exam, which translates into 17.25 CPE hours. And of course, that's limited to 50% of the 80 hours that's required for each renewal. The committee yesterday recommends approval of this Series 24 exam for CPE credit, and that's the recommendation that is being brought to the board today.
Janet, was the committee okay with the classification being under specialized knowledge?
I believe so, yes. And that's consistent with the other FINRA exams.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or discussion?
Right, so you bring that forward as a motion to approve.
Yes.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Aaron?
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore. Larry votes aye. Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon. Aye. Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
Next item on our agenda was for approval of 2 examinations related to business valuation, the ABV exam, and also Certified Valuation Analyst exam. And both of these exams also fall under the specialized knowledge area. The ABV exam is a 2-part examination totaling 3 hours, and the CVA exam is a 5-hour exam, and that would translate into 25 CPE hours. And as I said, these are 2 separate exams that we were looking to approve for CPE credit. We were provided some pretty detailed content on what's included in both of those exams. And so in our discussions, the committee recommends approving both of these exams, and that is the motion that is being brought to the board today.
Madam Chair, may I make a correction?
Yes.
The ABV is 6 hours.
6 hours?
Originally, it was presented to us as 3, but it's a 2-part, two times 3. So it's
okay, 6
right,
hours total.
Correct.
Okay, thank
Correct.
you, Rob. Any other comments or questions?
All right, so that comes before us as a motion from the committee. Do I have a second? Mr. Mr. Vance.
I will second that.
I figured you would want to second that one. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none. Karen?
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore, votes aye. Greg Gilbert,
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis, Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw,
Aye.
John Griesbeck,
Aye.
Gay Moon, Rob Vance, Brad Floyd,
Aye.
All right. Next, the crop
The
proposal.
CRY proposal. This last item that came to our committee relates to credit relief initiatives, known as CRY to some of us, and some of us may cry about it. So anyway, this item is supported by the Tennessee Society of CPAs as well as NASBA, and the recommendation that was brought to this committee was to provide relief to individual candidate requests to extend credit periods through June 30th of 2025 for CPA examinations credits that expired from June 30th, 2020 through May 11th, 2023. And those dates coincide with the national public emergency related to COVID. The relevant rule that relates to this particular item was included in our pre-meeting material. Also part of the recommendation, I'm going to back up for just a minute, was to grant the executive director authority to approve these requests. We did have some Tennessee specific data provided to us, and there were 375 candidates who would be affected by this relief program. And we also had some data related to dropout rates for candidates that had dropped out during the COVID era. And the trend was on an increasing basis in 2020, 2021, and 2022. We don't have that much information for 2023 yet. We had some information related to the extension history. And there were specifically 34 of the 375 eligible candidates that were without relief. And this board has in the past reviewed requests for credit extensions on a case-by-case basis. And in our discussion yesterday, the view was that continuing to review such requests on a case-by-case basis as opposed to en masse, as some jurisdictions have done that. And the information on those jurisdictions that have adopted this relief program en masse is included in the materials, and we reviewed that yesterday as well. So the committee wanted to bring to the full board the full recommendation as was written to consider individual candidate requests to extend credit periods through June 30th, 2025 for CPA examination credits that expired from January 30th, 2020 through May 11th, 2023. And also to recommend that the board would give the executive director authority to approve such requests. And we talked about having a form to document this, the request that the candidates would make, and the areas that they could be affected by would be health, economic, educational, or travel disruptions. And NASBA has presented a form to our executive director that they may use and maybe tweak it a little bit for our purposes.
All right. So the committee has brought that forth as a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Now we're at any questions or discussion? I know that we asked our attorney, Neil Stauffer, to actually talk about the ability of the rule itself, and that we have that permission to grant such to our executive director. And yesterday in committee, he told us that we did, and that and not to do it in mass, but we could do it on an individual basis. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In particular cases is what the rule says, upon a showing that the credit was lost due to circumstances beyond the candidate's control. So if the board is granting that on a case-by-case basis, that would be permissible under the rule, and then delegating the authority to the executive director to decide those would be within the board's discretion as well.
And also at that meeting, you advised that we needed to have documentation of the fact that they were making a statement that it was under certain conditions that we had the authority to grant that, and that you had gotten with Wendy, and that we were going to get a signature where they signed under oath that they did have that happen as far as those dates and those events.
There has to be, there has to be a showing that they lost the credit due to those circumstances that were beyond their control. So I would anticipate Wendy and I would be talking about those particular cases as they come in, and whether or not the candidate has made the requisite showing, and I would offer my advice on that. And if the board is delegating that to the executive director to decide, then that would then be with her within her discretion with my advice.
Okay, great. One question I had that came up since yesterday in my mind was that we have 6 states across, or 6 jurisdictions, I should say, that have no intent to adopt this. So what happens if somebody comes from another jurisdiction into Tennessee and says that they would like to grant this extension?
So the standard for score transfers is that NASBA or a state will transfer scores if they are valid. If they are already expired, then scores cannot be transferred into the state. So that's how that would work.
So if they've passed apart and they come to this state with all their other transfers, and then they come back and ask for a reinstatement under this provision that we're approving today, then it would be your feeling or understanding that they would not be granted that extension at that point because they weren't transferred in as qualifying.
Correct.
Okay.
And yesterday we went over at least one example where a candidate that actually this is a very current situation and would be able to benefit from this relief.
It's a great program. I'm excited about it as chairman, and I think it's a great program for people who had issues during COVID, and I think it's something that I'm proud that Tennessee is doing. Any other comments?
Is there anybody that we denied extension credits to that perhaps under this new guideline would have benefited, or did pretty much we decide that they were not circumstances beyond their control?
So in my review, it was somewhat of a manual review because we don't keep electronic type records, but in my review, there were 2 extensions denied since COVID. One was a request for reinstatement of credit well before COVID, and it was felt the time period was too long ago. So that was denied. And the second one was at the last meeting. The individual did not provide any documentation of their issue, and the board denied the request, suggesting that if the person had documentation, they could come back and request the extension again. I have gone back to review that candidate's records, and they have gone on to pass the exam. So it they don't need to take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Karen?
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore. Larry votes aye. Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis. Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon, Rob Vance,
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye.
And yeah, that concludes our committee.
Thank you, Chairman Booker Davis. Appreciate it. Appreciate all y'all's hard work on that. Next, we have an acting chair today, since we have somebody out, and I'm going to turn it over to Greg Gilbert, who is acting chair, and has told me that the enforcement may be of record short time today. So we're gonna see if the acting chair is up to filling those shoes right now. So
You will see. I will. Thank you, sir. I will also readily admit that I miss Chairman Monroe, and he always does an excellent job. And so we miss Kevin and look forward to seeing him at the next meeting. You have in your package a case and complaint report. That's a detail on open complaints. There are 32 items on that worksheet, and most of those are in some form of investigation or in litigation monitoring. I think that report does not need approval, but any questions or comments? Okay, so we'll move to the legal report, and I would like again to thank Neil and Duke it's obvious that you gentlemen are working very well together. And Neil, I think you've read the sentiment of the board extremely well on how to present these cases. And so thank you for that. And of course, Wendy, always for your input and help with these cases. So we will review the cases by category. The first 12 cases are under the consent agenda. And let me pull those back up on the iPad so I can get the case numbers for the record. Item 1, case number 2023-026671. The complaint related to use of the term accountant. This individual did not hold self out as a CPA, but did use the term, quote, lead accountant in some correspondence, and the committee's recommendation is that we issue a letter of instruction. Item number 2, case 2023-024801 is a similar case. The allegation was use of accountant designation. The individual did not hold self out as a CPA or as an accountant, and the committee's recommendation is closure. Item number 3, case number 2023-028791. The category related to use of CPA designation. This individual did not identify as CPA in official documents or titles, but only on social media, and that has been removed. The committee recommends closure. Item number 4, case number 2023-021541 relates to allegations pertaining to client records. The evidence is that respondent timely provided client records, and the committee's recommendation is closure. Item number 5, case number 2023-030401 relates to due care incompetence. This was an individual who was a treasurer at a not-for-profit school. The evidence does not support any type of violation. The committee recommends closure, not represents, sorry. Item 6, which we will need to vote on separately because Mr. Vance needs to recuse himself from this, but case number is 2023-034661. This relates regarding a business valuation in a divorce case, and the respondent provided explanation refuting claims, and evidence does not support any type of violation. So the committee's recommendation is closure. Item 7, case number 2023-035771. There was some dispute about client records and general ledger, and we need to remind the respondent to utilize detailed engagement letter and maintain clear communication with clients regarding records, and the committee recommends a letter of instruction to this individual. Item number 8, case number 2023-036281. Again, it's another case related to client records, tax return documents. Those documents had been provided to client or to the complainant previously, and the complainant admitted that, and so the committee recommends closure of that case. Item number 9, case number 20230386761. This individual is an unlicensed person and issued a review report of a nonprofit charity's checking account, and the committee's recommendation is that we issue a letter of warning. Item number 10, case 20230375251. The complainant, it's a due care, delay of services allegation. Complainant acknowledged responsibility for delays, and complainant received the subject audit report by the extended deadline. No evidence of any violation. The committee recommends closure. Item number 11, case number 20230343991. This is a due care competence case or allegation. We need to remind the respondent to explicitly state in future engagement letters that is the responsibility of the client to pay estimated taxes due in the event of a file extension. The committee's recommendation is a letter of instruction. Item number 12, case number 20230403991, relates to allegations of audit deficiencies. Respondent did not admit or deny findings as part of subject orders, but the evidence is insufficient to establish jurisdictional nexus in Tennessee. The committee's recommendation is closure. Mr. Chairman, the committee moves that we approve items numbers 1 through 12, with the exception of item number 6, which I think would require a separate vote.
Wendy?
Before we have a second, if you could clarify, Greg, on number 11.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
I did miss that. So on number 11, we did recommend a letter of instruction, but the committee further recommends the board open a separate complaint to investigate whether respondents' actions complied with principles of independence based on the respondent's statement that she prepared the financial statement of complaints company and performed a review engagement with respect to those statements. Thank you very much, Wendy. Sorry.
All right. So I have a motion on the table. It does not require, it comes from the committee, so all I need is a second. Do I have a second? All right, so we have the motion and second. Any questions or further discussion? Seeing none, Karen?
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Larry votes aye.
Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis.
Aye.
Pam Church. Pam, are you with us?
It shows she left the chat, Karen.
Oh, Pam.
Pam, if you're able to vote.
I lost contact for a minute. Am I up for the vote?
Yes.
Okay, I vote aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon.
Aye.
Rob Vance.
Aye.
Brad Floyd.
Aye. All right, Chairman Gilbert?
Mr. Chairman, we also need to vote, please, on item number 6, case 20230346661. That was the case regarding a business valuation, and there was no evidence to support any violation, and the committee recommended closure.
All right, so do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, Karen?
Andy Bonner.
Aye.
Larry Elmore.
Larry votes aye.
Greg Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis. Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon. Aye. Brad Floyd.
Aye.
For the record, Rob is abstaining from this vote.
All righty. Chairman Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two cases under proposed discipline. Item number 13, case 20230405541. This relates to a complaint regarding a test service without CPA license, firm permit, or peer review. This individual is unlicensed. The committee recommends a penalty in the amount of $1,000. Then, if we may vote on these two together, I think that would be fine. But item number 14, cases 2023-025601 and 2023-025611. This relates to a test work with expired firm permit and no peer review, and the committee recommends $1,500 civil penalty, $750 for lack of firm permit, and $750 for peer review violation.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Hang on one second.
Yeah, it's $1,500, a total of $1,500.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Before we have a second, I'd also like to clarify that part of the recommendation was to require respondent to agree not to perform a test services until they come into compliance with peer review. Is that also the will
That's
of the
correct.
committee?
That's correct. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Do I have a second now?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or comments or questions?
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore, Larry votes aye, Greg Gilbert, Janet Booker Davis, Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw,
Aye.
John Griesbeck,
Aye.
Gay Moon,
Aye.
Rob Vance,
Aye.
Brad Floyd,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Chairman, we have two cases under the representations. Item number 15, case 202301191, relates to a test work without valid firm permit and failure to enroll in peer review. The board has dealt with this particular respondent some in the past, and at this point, respondent is in Mississippi and is non-responsive. The Mississippi Board of Accountancy has indicated interest in investigating and has jurisdictional nexus, and so the committee recommends that we close and refer to Mississippi State Board of Public Accountancy for investigation disposition. And then the final case, number 16, case number 2023000191, relates to due care. This case previously was in litigation monitoring, and based on new evidence, the committee now recommends that we close the case.
All right. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. Do I have any questions or comments? Seeing none. Karen?
Andy Bonner,
Aye.
Larry Elmore, Larry votes aye, Greg Gilbert,
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis,
Aye.
Pam Church,
Aye.
David Crenshaw,
Aye.
John Griesbeck,
Aye.
Gay Moon,
Aye.
Rob Vance,
Aye.
Brad Floyd,
Aye.
All right. Anything further, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yesterday, the executive committee could not meet since we did not have a quorum present in the room. So we deferred that committee discussion until we came today. We now are going to ask Wendy if you'll kind of talk to us about the state-specific ethics courses and the contract that we have with the Tennessee Society of CPAs, and any discussion about things that we possibly may want to amend with that state ethics course or add.
Great, thank you, Chairman Bonner. As a refresher Several years ago, in 2017, we entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Tennessee Society of CPAs, in which they create the content for the state-specific ethics course that licensees are required to take as part of their biennial CPE requirement. The purpose of the memorandum of understanding is just to ensure that if we have one course, that the content is valid and correct and everyone's receiving the same information, and that we have a circumstance in place where we know that will be available since it is a requirement. Now, as part of the memorandum, the TSCPA will create the content and then make it available to other sponsors to purchase and deliver. So what I've done here is kind of summarize where we are. We typically do this at the October meeting. One of our requirements as a board is to make sure that we have an outline that the TSCPA would go by in order to create the content for the following year. And so we agree to provide that to them by December 1st of each year. So just in summary, the Memorandum of Understanding is attached to your document, and everything has been observed within that contract. The licensee's cost through TSCPA for the online course is at $45 currently. That was raised earlier this year from $40 to $45 and reported to the board at that time. TSCPA delivers the course in a variety of formats, including a webcast replay, and in a live version. The additional sponsors that we have approved for the current year are Beacon Hill Financial Educators, Becker, CCH, Checkpoint Learning, Thomson Reuters, Kaplan Smart Pros, MTSU, MyCPE, and Perry Moore. These sponsors are available on our website on the homepage for licensees to determine acceptable courses with links to obtain those courses. Leanne Blair on our staff monitors this program. She regularly communicates with the sponsors that have been approved, reminding them of their requirement to submit evaluations. It's a tough time of year to get evaluations. As you all might imagine, most of the CPE or most CPE in general is offered between October and December because licensees are through a busy season and are ready to fulfill all their requirements for renewal at the end of the year. But this is a summary of what we've collected so far. You will see a handful of comments from various sponsors that we have received. And then I have attached comments that we received from TSCPA. Historically, they have provided these to us in February, which meets the requirements, but you all don't get a great chance to see those comments when we do this evaluation. So I asked them to provide the comments they had to date, which they did and are provided to you there, and is probably the most specific comments from any of the sponsors. And so what I've also included in your documents is I took the outline from last year and I did some track changes on suggestions that I have made to that document. And I'm open to discussion on those, or if you have anything to add or remove, we can discuss that as well.
I would like to say that I'm excited about some of the additions there, that there have been some changes in the profession, specifically on the peak side and with professional ethics, and 1.400.001 and acts discreditable that specifically relate to some things that have happened within the profession that have actually was brought before this board about soliciting about false or misleading deceptive acts, which include disclosing questions or answers to any professional education course examination unless it's a collaboration is expressly permitted, or falsifying or misleading attendance at a professional education course, or even tampering with administration or of an examination, grading, for any professional education course or credential. And Wendy brought that as something that probably needed to be talked about in that update, and very much needs to. When she put that down, something came to my mind that we learned the code in college, but I'm not sure that anybody comes back and references the code. What I have learned by being on Peak is that the larger firms have one individual or more within the firm that do nothing but visit the code and research issues that come up within the firm. And that's great and wonderful for a large firm, but some of the smaller firms may not even know where to find the code or how to ask questions. And so I think that it would be great to specifically introduce in the update as a suggestion where there would be an overview of the code briefly, and that maybe that a requirement that they actually show where you can actually find the code, either by web address, and examples of how you can ask questions, where you can do chat and ask a question, or you can send an email to ask a question to the AICPA hotline, just to make sure. We've had several things here that have been brought forth before this board that deal with confidentiality obtained from an employer and or from a business, and whether or not something was violated under the professional code. Maybe even in such a reference to that code section, is that as an example within it would be maybe a suggestion. And also that the code does state that it's not only confidential information obtained from an employer, but also any voluntary activities that that licensed professional may be involved in that could cause a breach that could get them in trouble. And so I think it's an excellent suggestion on Wendy's part. I'm excited about that, and just ask if there's any other areas that anybody sees that that you might have comments on. One thing I would like to ask is that we consider going ahead and entering into a new memorandum of understanding with new signatures, since that we have a new executive director on the Tennessee Society of CPAs part. I like the fact that it's ongoing. I would not want to change anything within it, but would ask that we consider just redating this document and signing a new one to come forward with. Any thoughts there?
I was just going to say that seems like a good idea, since Brad signed for Tennessee Society and now he's a board member.
I meant to state earlier that I would like to recuse myself. Thank you.
So given that, I would like to make a motion that that we update the 2024 outline to include just a reference to the professional code of conduct and where it can be obtained on the web, and to not only discuss the 1.400.020 section, but also that we discuss maybe some other examples of disciplinary actions that may have occurred in cases, and actually tie that back to the code section in the code of conduct, so that those present in the course can say, yeah, here, let me give you an example. This is where, in this case number or this particular case, where you can find the code that was broken or that was violated, for that in consideration with the other changes that Wendy has made. And that secondly, that we do enter into a new contract, a new memorandum of understanding with just new signatures and updated dates.
If we could have a second, and then Larry has a question.
Okay.
I second.
Larry's question is, what do we gain by signing another document or MOU?
More importantly, I think what we do is we just outline the memorandum of understanding. We get updated signatures from individuals who are now currently sitting in those seats. And then since one of those parties is now on our board, we actually show independence now that he is no longer associated with the Tennessee Society of CPAs. That would be my recommendation, and that's the reason I requested that. And I'll ask our attorney, do you think that, Neil, that would be a good thing to do?
Talking about updating the memorandum of understanding.
Yes,
correct? Just to update the
basically, yeah, basically the same thing except new signatures from the new executive director for the Tennessee Society of CPAs.
I believe with the prior MOU, it would still be, unless there was an end date on it or an expiration, it would still be effective. But if the board in its discretion wanted to do that, it would be within your discretion to do that.
Okay.
Or an expiration on the current MOU?
There's not. The concern is that Brad was associated with the Tennessee Society of CPAs at the time, and he is the one signing it, and now he's a board member. There is just some concern or a suggestion that we get the current CEO to make that signature, but there is no end date currently on there.
It would be within the board's discretion to do that.
It just seems like a good thing to have that visual of independence so that it can never be questioned.
I believe you can see in the contract of the MOU, but it's termination for convenience, 180 days notice. So just want to make sure we get our dates right on that.
Okay.
So Larry is saying not sure that we really gain anything by that. Just his comments.
Okay. Any other thoughts in that area?
Well, like I said before, I tend to agree with you. I think it would be, I mean, it's not necessary, but I just think it would be a prudent thing to do.
And I think I agree with you, and I'll defer to Neil's ultimate counsel, but there is language in the MOU talking about the independent status of the TSCPA to this board. That obviously is not the case anymore with Brad joining us, and so we probably need to make sure we're in compliance there.
Right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? So this vote would be for to continue the memorandum. It would be for the changes that have been outlined in the documents that we received, plus the addition of where to find the code and to address maybe an example of looking up a section of the code in the course so that our people could find it on the web. And then also to not change anything within the memorandum, but just to get additional signatures that now indicate that we are independent by visual agreement. So with that, I would ask Karen to call a vote.
Honor.
Aye.
Larry Elmore. Larry votes aye. Matt Gilbert.
Aye.
Janet Booker Davis. Pam Church.
Aye.
David Crenshaw.
Aye.
John Griesbeck.
Aye.
Gay Moon. Rob Vance.
Aye.
I just want to confirm, do we have a second on that? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You got the second. And just to document that Brad Floyd did recuse himself and did not vote on that. All right. Travel. We kind of discussed travel a little bit, but I'll let Wendy talk a little bit more further in detail.
So in front of you have a brief travel detail from the last quarter, July, August, and September of 2023. This includes my outreach event at the TSCPA Appalachian chapter meeting in September, and then Duke's travel to the board meeting in July. And that's the extent of the travel by staff during the last quarter.
Questions on the travel? We kind of talked about that earlier. And then fiscal year 23 budget closing. So I'll refer back to Wendy and let.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we didn't have a chance to talk about financials yesterday, and the only thing I have for you at this meeting is the final closeout numbers for FY23, which ended June 30, 2023. Our revenues, net revenues after the state regulatory fee is pulled out, is $957,990. Our total expenses were at $965,546, leaving us with a negative balance of $7,555. As I've mentioned at prior meetings, a lot of the difference is related to a statewide change in the salary structure, which affected not only our staff, but also the legal division, the administration, and all the services that we procure within the department and statewide. So it pushes our expenses up and caused us to run in the red for this particular year. Now, our reserve balance was at $1,608,757. That negative balance will be pulled from the reserves, leaving us with a reserve balance at $1,601,202. When a board runs 1 year in the red, that is considered acceptable. If a board runs for consecutive years in the red, then we will be required to go to a hearing with the Joint Government Ops Committee to explain kind of where we are, how we got there, if and how we are addressing that situation. You'll notice that there was a significant increase in our legal cost backs, and that was close to 80% of our total increase, I guess, in our cost backs. And much of that is attributed to salary increases as well as kind of turnover in the legal division and just trying to work through that. So we will keep monitoring that and do what we can. But with the cost backs and the salaries, we're really left with only about $160,000 for the rest of our budget to work with on an annual basis. So happy to take any questions.
I would just like to say that I'm very pleased that the state has increased those legal staff fees. We had so much turnover in Tennessee. I applaud the governor and his administration for doing that and trying to keep a high level of quality personnel, not only at the legal level, but also within the state itself. So I think that's great. One of the things I would request is that with that said, that they also consider the boards and the cost increases that have occurred. And so it may be that we have to come back at some point and take a look at, license renewals to help cover that cost, maybe an increase in that area due to those costs to support what we see as a good move by the state. So as we come forward and look at our budgeting process, we may have to consider that. There's one item on the report that our travel expenses jumped up immensely as compared to previous years, but I'm sure that COVID had a reason for that, and I'll ask Wendy to kind of address that. And I think we all know, but just for the record.
Yes. So for the record, the prior 3 fiscal years, were COVID and us coming out of COVID. So we had cut back on travel as a result. So the final travel numbers there are reflective of what we typically saw prior to COVID. So that explains the increase there.
Also would like to applaud this board for not only its involvement within the profession and attending meetings, which is totally voluntary on our parts, but also for being a part of that and keeping Tennessee at the leadership position within the profession. That I think that's the way we should be, that's the way that's expected from the profession in the state of Tennessee. But there is a cost associated with that, and I support that travel and think that it's great for our leaders here within this board to be a part of that, and hope that continues.
If I could add, at the January meeting, I'll be bringing to you a budget for the FY25 period. So we typically do that at this October meeting, but I checked with our fiscal department and they are more than fine with us waiting till January, and that may give me a better sense of what our future costs will be.
All right. From the executive side, I'll ask, is there anything else that needs to be brought before to be reported?
I would like to recognize the fact that Wendy and Kevin Monroe will be speaking at the Tennessee Society of CPAs Forensic and Valuation Service Conference next week, which I very much appreciate. The panel I think it's a panel. It's called Future Direction of the Valuation Profession. I thought it was just going to be the CPA profession, but I didn't know that you were going to get granular on the valuation profession. But thank you, and we look forward to your presentation next week.
Thank you.
And probably was going to do this in another section, but just to point out, our staff is really highly involved in the profession. Wendy is a great example of that. Neil sits in on meetings online and is involved in, and I'm not mistaken, I think you actually went to the legislative or to the update for legal.
He wasn't with us yet,
okay.
But he will go in March.
Okay.
To the next.
Great, because I think that's it is different being on the CPA side, and I think that being able to talk to your peers and to understand what other jurisdictions are doing is a great eye-opening example, and actually makes us better as a board and also in the state, and also Duke for his involvement in attending, and also coming online to some virtual sessions and learning from there. So I think we have a great team, and I applaud each one of you for the extra effort that you make to get that extra education. So we appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a question about your comment. Were you suggesting that we might have to increase fees to our licensees to cover the shortfall?
I don't know how the state's going to look at that. As Wendy pointed out, that the first deficit, we have a deficit.
Yes.
That we reported. So the next one, if we have a deficit next year, and when you talk about that big of an increase in expenses, the probability of it may be pretty high.
I guess my concern with that would be we have this big reserve, part of which comes from licensees' fees, and we could run the risk of that being potentially swept and used by others, and then we would increase fees to our licensees. That just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, it's definitely something that we may have to do.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. And so I don't know how that's going to fall out. But as we all know, inflation is definitely a factor. Getting quality personnel is a factor to maintain a competitiveness within the profession, whether it's legal or staffing. And so as those continue to rise, it's just something as a forward-looking statement that we may have to consider.
I guess I hear what you're saying,
yeah.
But to me that just doesn't seem
and
right.
Both sides of that, I think that you're appropriate to challenge that, and so I'm just trying to get some discussion out there to what we may have to say once we get called to the floor, to the carpet, to say, why are you running a deficit? Well, there are a lot of factors. We agree with them, but it may be something that we may have to consider via what the state wants. And it's amazing to me that we have a state here that just collects and sells taxes, that has no deficit as such, that is one of the strongest states financially within the United States. And in order to obtain that, there is a cost, or to maintain that, there is a cost. And so I applaud the leaders of Tennessee and the governor and what they do. And I just think it's something we just, have to consider and focus on as we come forward.
I hope we can come up with some other appropriate means to make that happen.
Sir, Mr. Gill, or Mr. Floyd.
I would like to echo Janet's concern regarding the excess revenue and the balance that has been accumulated over the years, the reserve balance historically, and Wendy probably has some better data on this, but there have been decades over the last 30 years that our fund balance has grown to the point that it has exceeded this amount and been swept back into the general fund. And these are, it's a fairness issue. This board has been very prudent in its management of its resources, and we have accumulated excess revenues over the decades that have been swept back. It's currently built to 1.6 million, and I do think that needs to be taken into consideration when establishing fees for licensees going forward. But I'm sure the staff would have a little history on that, and it's worth bringing that into the conversation. And Janet, this isn't the first time, and this deficit that has been run this past fiscal year is relatively insignificant. Hopefully, any joint government op consideration taking that.
I agree. Well said, both of you. Well said.
Larry has a comment in the chat. Just other options are rule changes when considering fees, $1,000 max on penalties. Obviously, that would be down the road if we need to look at that type of thing.
Any other comments or thoughts?
Well, we did increase, when we work on the matrix, we did increase the penalties for quite a few, so that should also make a difference in the current year.
To clarify, when we budget, we do not include the case and complaint revenue in our budgeting numbers, but it's a reality that we do collect revenue in that area each year, so it is there as revenue.
Okay. We're going to move forward now to any NASBA updates. I think that from my perspective on the board of directors, everything's pretty much been covered. Our board of directors meets next week for NASBA, so I'm sure the next time we come together, we'll have some other stuff to report and have some information from the annual meeting. But any other updates are needed at this time? Wendy?
So I sit on the AICPA Board of Examiners. I know that's separate from NASBA, but a lot of important work being done there as we move into the new exam. So you all received an email about requesting participation. The CPAs received an email about participation in, or potential participation in, setting cut scores and looking for volunteers for that. So if you or someone in your firm or anyone that you can think of that may be interested, that actively supervises folks in that area, feel free to forward it their way. It does a little bit of a time commitment. It's some preparation materials and then a meeting or two, I believe, to participate in that piece of the score setting process. I believe that happens in November. So if you need a copy of that email, I have it. I'm happy to forward it to you. But over the course of the next 6 months, as part of the Board of Examiners, we will be going through a training session and then some meetings next year to work on
that particular scoring process and the policies surrounding that. So interesting times.
Very interesting times. Thank you for your work on that committee. Any other updates or comments? None. Now we come to a public comment period, and I ask if there's anyone that has any comments from the public.
Mr. Chairman, I see nothing in the Teams chat, and there is no one in the room or signed in on the sheet to make comment.
Righty. Thank you. Do we have any old or new business that we need to bring before this board today? I would just like to say again, thank you to Gay Moon for coming and joining us. We may not see her next time, but we appreciate your continual involvement with the board, and it says a lot about your character and you as a person and a professional, and thank you for giving back to your profession.
Happy to do it. It's a great group of people, and it's a great profession.
It is. Thank you.
Andy, could I make a quick comment?
Yes, please.
As to where I am today, most of you know that I became the interim dean of the School of Business here at Christian Brothers University after I retired. So for me, it's a post-retirement job. But you may have read that Christian Brothers declared financial exigency a couple of weeks ago. And that's a very dire situation for a college. And it only enters it if very stringent financial moves will allow the college to go forward. So I ended up on the retrenchment committee that comes up with a plan to recommend to the president as to what cuts can be made, including 30% or more of the faculty, including tenured faculty. And I say that in conjunction with the fact that CBU was recently named in a New York Times article as the 13th most economically diverse student body in the country, meaning many of our students qualify for Pell Grants. We have quite a few Dreamers. We have a lot of first-generation international students who are helping their parents with their internship money. So the school is going through a very, very serious situation, and all the people involved, including our students and our accounting students, will be affected, and I just ask for your positive thoughts as everybody goes through that.
Well said. Well said. It just disturbs me to hear that about that with everything going on, that we're losing some of our outstanding small colleges due to financial reasons. And I applaud you for all that you're doing, Dr. Church. And
we hope that we thank you. We hope we're not one of those. We are hopeful.
Well, we're very hopeful too as a board here in Tennessee, because some outstanding students have come through that program.
That's right.
Any other comments or? Well, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All right. And thank everybody for all of your help, support, and attendance. And we look forward to seeing you at our next board meeting.
Thank you.